A childhood filled with love and care at home and camaraderie at school shapes a mind that seeks harmony and justice at all times. It fosters aspirations based on acceptance of the as is in order to create value for everyone. Its nemesis, however, is a utilitarian world that's designed as a give and take win lose game, a world where real faces are often hidden behind masks. Being guarded, holding cards close to oneself, keeping the other person guessing becomes a strategy to win, and maybe rightfully so, given the goal of maximizing personal gains. But what if this behavior spills over to other parts of life and living that requires an authentic engagement beyond transactional value? How does one's values, beliefs, and biases affect participation in such engagements? How does this help in bringing forth the best version of oneself to create a sense of well being for all? To explore this subject and more, here's a conversation with Anand Popat, who spent his formative years in a boarding school built on principles of equity and equality. He worked as a corporate lawyer for a few years in Mumbai before moving to Pune to join his family business and to marry his college sweetheart. I'm trying to balance work, fatherhood, and all my other relationships while being in a constant pursuit of happiness, he says. Welcome, Anand, to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Anand, in your introduction, I read that you went to a boarding school, and I know you didn't go to any ordinary boarding school. It was a very unique and a different school in India. So, why don't we begin a conversation in terms of trying to understand how young Anand uh, went through this education experience living away from home in his formative years, and if you kind of juxtapose this to the education and growing up of your own son, who is 9 years today, it'll be interesting to listen to you to compare and contrast the two.
Uh, so I think to give you a background, I was born in Mumbai. We stayed there till I was about 10. Then we shifted to Pune for dad's business interests. And I spent 1-2 years still in different schools in Pune. And then one fine day, dad comes up to me and says, there's this really nice boarding school that I've heard about. Would you like to go? And for some reason, I said yes. I've grown up only being at home. I've hardly spent time away from my family. And he said, you don't have to go. We just go and have a look. So we go to this place and it's beautiful. It's on a hill, the entire school. And we meet the principal. They do the basic, the entrance tests or assessment. They do a basic one before they agree to take on the child. So we do that, and I come home and I say, I think I aced it. And he's like, but do you still want to go? So I say, yeah, let's go. And he takes the admission. And then the jitters begin. I remember going up to my sister in her room and saying, I don't want to go now. So, but she's like, it's fine, you'll be fine, just go. So I ended up going, and for 2 weeks I cried. That's all I did. I was in my bed, I wouldn't attend classes. I was homesick, crying.
How old were you?
I was 11, 7th standard, so
Yeah.
11 years old. And it's not like the place wasn't nice. The people were nice. My roommates were nice. One of my oldest friends was on the bed next to me. So we would have a dorm of about 8-10 guys in each dorm, or 12. And the person who was my neighbor, he was he was there a year before I joined, or 2 years. So he tried to kind of ease me into it. Everyone tried to cheer me up, and then eventually the homesickness went. And then I started obviously loving it. The homesickness would come back when the parents would visit, say once every 2 months. They were allowed to visit. They were allowed to come and stay in a separate accommodation on campus, each person's parents, after taking an appointment or a booking. So that's when again a bit of homesickness would come for 2 days, and then it would go away again. The school itself, right, is I think what your main question was. The school, there was no uniforms, there was no exams till 9th standard. The main principle, the core fundamental thing that they wanted to teach us was we should not have any competition. So I think that's where the no exams also came in. They didn't want comparisons between children. They wanted to treat everyone equally. So me as a person, I was highly competitive, especially with sports and things like that. And they insisted that you should not compete. I'm like, how do you play sports without competing? You're like, just play. Like, play table tennis, don't keep score. Play. I mean, that didn't stop me from keeping score, but so those were the things about school. There was 1 hour in the evening for meditation, which we used to go and do on this a smaller hill on top of the hill that our school was on. It was the whole range. I think the Tivai Hills is where the school is, and this hill was called the Astachal Hill. So at 1 hour at 6 p.m. the bell would ring and the whole school had to fall silent. Initially, for the first 2 years, everyone had to be on top of the hill before 6 p.m. And for that 1 hour, nobody could utter a word to each other. The teachers were there with us, the students, and all we were doing is sitting and staring at the sunset. Or if you're not interested in the sunset, which everyone was, you can do whatever else, but you have to be quiet there. And
so it's not you don't have to sit in a posture with eyes closed and all.
No.
You could move around.
Moving would kind of disturb the environment a bit.
Okay.
But we would all be sitting.
Okay.
But if you want to walk around, you'd probably be on the side or.
But you can keep your eyes open.
Yeah. I don't think anyone can keep the eyes shut for 1 hour as a kid. Yeah, and we would. But the thing is that nobody had a problem with it because that sunset was different every day. It was so relaxing for some, at least for me, and I think most people loved it. So after 7th or 8th, there were some people who objected to it, and they said, what we're going to do is, you don't have to come to this hill compulsorily, but at 6 to 7 p.m. quiet time remains. So be in your room, be in your classroom, be outside the classroom, be wherever you want to be in the school, but don't utter a word. So you would have girlfriends or...
Oh, it was a co-ed?
Yeah, it was a co-ed. So everyone didn't have girlfriends. A lot of people did. A lot of people... This is a term that you would call each other best friends because we didn't want to be...
Correct.
Called girlfriend and boyfriend or whatever. And... even if you're with them, you have to be quiet for that one. And we would do it. We would not break that rule. There was nobody even monitoring us. How can you monitor the whole school? Now we're not even on that hill anymore.
And how many children here there were?
We have about 40 kids per class into, I think from 4th standard onwards there were kids. So about 300 kids.
So 300 boys and girls, evening 6 to 7.
Yeah.
Of different ages,
yes.
Who are not monitored and expected to just be silent. And you said it happened every day.
Every day.
Was there a purpose given to you as to why are you doing this?
Not that I remember, but
But kids at that age would want to know, no, why are we doing it? What did that question happen to anybody, or at least to you?
No, I mean, I'm sure some people did ask that, but I wasn't one of them. So I honestly don't remember if we were given a reason.
So in hindsight, what do you think could be the reason? Because this is something which has happened many, many years back for you.
Yeah, I think, like I was just thinking about it a few days ago that, and even a cousin of mine mentioned it to me, that how many of us just take even 10 minutes in a day to sit and do nothing. You know, the phone though is the biggest addiction of everyone. Like there's Netflix and something on all the time.
Yeah, you can't live without the screen these days.
Yeah, so there's WhatsApp, Netflix, you're constantly checking your messages, or you're getting a call, or even without the phone, you're not sitting without doing anything. You're always thinking about something, what do you need to do next. Your mind is not at peace at any time. I'm sure there are obviously a lot of people who practice meditation and things, but I would say 95% of us, I don't know people as a culture whether we are practicing meditation. So that time to self-reflect and maybe even wind down, and that is what I would say would have been the primary purpose of that time.
But they say that, the popular saying goes that don't sit doing nothing, do something. And now what I'm hearing from you is what seems to be at play here is stop doing whatever you're doing and do nothing for a while.
Yeah, I think that'd be like so good for everyone to do that. I'm like really planning to start doing that.
But then, your own 9-year-old son, as a father, are you kind of replicating that experience for him, or did you try?
No, I haven't tried that. This thing I definitely haven't tried with him.
What would happen if you do?
He doesn't sit for 1 minute without like last night I was telling him he's anyway, all kids are addicted to the screen, and he's now trying to watch the screen while eating his meals, which is a terrible habit. And in the holidays I said, okay, there's a IPL going on or whatever, it coincided with dinner time, you can have it today. Then it's becoming a habit. I said, just sit and have a conversation with me, while we are having dinner. He's like, no, you will be eating, you will not talk, and the excuses are always there. So one thing is, coming from me, it's not going to get sold at all. Anything coming from the parents is a lot harder to sell. So I would love for him to do that. I think it would be great for him, but it needs to come from someone else. That's for sure.
And I know another thing, that you are a part of a large family.
Yeah.
And, and members of your family, immediate and extended, are a part of the same family, real estate business. But then before getting into the business as such, but let's look at understanding the notion of family in times we live today. Right? I mean, families all around the world matter. I mean, though people might want to say that in the West, young boys and girls are expected to leave home at 17 or 18 when they leave for college or a university education, and from then on they are on their own in terms of how they want to live their life, and there's tremendous freedom given to them. And of course, parents live their own life. Many of them probably are in their second or even third marriage, we don't know. But even in societies like those, families do matter. Now when you look at a country like India, which in some steps, for good or bad, I would like to believe is trying to ape the West in terms of social habits and a way of living. Nonetheless, when you look at the TV shows on popular channels in India today, most shows would be centered around family. And the big Indian wedding is another thing which is a big event in everybody's life, whether you go north, south, east, west of this huge billion plus populated country. But in 2023 India, when you look at family, especially for somebody like you, who is in your late 30s right now, having the only child who is almost 9 or 10, and a part of a reasonably large size family. What does family mean to you, and what does family give you, and what is it that you feel you are giving to the family? Love to hear that.
So family, I would say, means everything to me. Like, I obviously mentioned I went to boarding school. Over there, a lot of kids, many kids had some issues back home. I think that's a general notion also, that why are you sending the kid to boarding school? At least that's how it was then. That either there's issues at home or there's issues with the kid. That's why you're sending them to the board. But for me, there was not even 1% that was the reason. There was no problems at home. There was no problems in family. And I had 2 elder sisters and a lot of cousins. We would all be taking all our holidays together. And nothing had changed. So family has always been a very, very, like a support system, basically, for me. I cannot complain in any way. So what they've given me, there's no, like, the list is endless. And what I'm giving them is also a kind of replication of what they've given me. They've given me love and care and time and all those things, and I want to continuously give that back to them. So even, like, in boarding school, I used to get, because they knew I was homesick, I used to get about 1 letter per day. We used to get, those inland cards.
Correct.
Which used to fold.
Correct.
And it
blue
had
colored
yeah,
cards.
It had those 2 folding from the bottom, and then those 2 side
Correct.
things you fold from the side. They used to come every day. And these other kids were getting once a month letters, once in 2 months. And my sisters were writing to me each and every day. On my birthday, I would get 21 letters. And everyone was so jealous of that. So, I mean, family is like everything, basically.
And you also are a part of your family's real estate business.
Yeah.
And I know that in addition to managing your family's real estate business, you are also a portfolio manager for the family's investment.
Yeah,
and a portfolio manager without a title.
Yeah, you could say that. So family business is something I joined after working as a lawyer in Bombay for 3 years. And I was quite fed up with the Bombay life, and even the work hours were quite long as a corporate lawyer. I think most people don't work less than 12, 14 hours. I knew friends who were working 16, 18 hours a day. So I was like, I don't want to get there. Because I was in love with my wife Farah from the age of 18. We met in college, and
this was in Mumbai?
No, we met in Pune.
Okay.
So we met in Pune, and while we were in the same college, and then I moved to Bombay after about 5-6 years of knowing each other. Because that corporate law at that time was only in Bombay, Delhi or Bangalore. And I worked 3 years, and I missed family. I missed my girlfriend. I used to be back every Saturday evening on that Pragati train at 4:15, I think it was, and Monday morning 7:15 back to in Deccan Queen VT and straight to office. And I was completely exhausted with this whole schedule. I didn't want to be in Bombay on the weekends, and I wanted to be in Pune all the time, basically. And again, one fine day, Dad came up to me and said, some of our legal issues are getting resolved, and we want to now grow the business, and we could do with your helping hand. And why don't you join us? And I was like, that's exactly the thing I was looking for, because I had not actually ever thought of this, that I will join the business one day, because Dad had a few different businesses while I was growing up. There was not like one. Real estate was not a business to begin with when I was a kid. So when he asked me, I said, yeah, great, I hate this city, I'm coming. I want to, like, I cannot imagine raising a family here, because to earn that sort of money and all is going to take me 20 years. If I have a good setup, why shouldn't I go back to that? So I went back, and I've been with Dad, and my extended family is also in the business. We've all been together for the last 10 years or so, and trying to grow that. And obviously, like you said, portfolio manager.
Real estate in India as a business, and love to pick your brains on that, because this is what you do day in, day out as your daytime work. From the outside, for a person like me, that's one sector which probably is equally organized and disorganized in terms of the way it is structured and the way it is operating. Though the laws of the land are getting more and more clear, more and more robust. But I think as a country, we are having a legacy of real estate business, which is construction, whether it is for retail households or whether it is commercial places, whether it is offices or theaters or shopping malls or whatever you may call it, or factories, manufacturing units. Land, which is the piece on which everything depends, is still held not in a structured form. I mean, despite all the let's say reforms that have happened in land records, this is something which I'm sure you are very familiar with. But how have you, over the last 10-15 years of you being in the family real estate business, and plus you are a lawyer by education and profession, though corporate law, but law is what you have learned and you practice even today. How does this sector come across to somebody like you who is very deep inside? What has changed over the years? What has remained the same? And is this a place where a 20-something who's graduating in economics or finance or business or MBA should look forward to as a career?
I would say luck has a lot to do with these things. Because you may have the best intentions, you may have the right ideas, the right knowledge, but in India, like you said, it's mainly talking about India, right? So there is always this doubt with real estate, where any small legal problem might delay or get your project stuck for a few months or even years. So I have kind of started reducing my exposure to real estate, but I wouldn't say that I wouldn't give that advice to everyone. I know a lot of people are very successful, and they're doing well and they're happy with how they're doing. So it is obviously how much of an interest it is to you. I know a few of your guests have done a lot of work in real estate and with these new sustainable measures, and so those things are, I think, the next big thing. So the older type of real estate model doesn't work. We've seen a lot of builders go bust who may have had the right intentions, but over a few wrong bets, their whole business has collapsed. So
And there was this new idea on the horizon which sounded very promising. I don't know where it is today, called the real estate investment trusts,
hmm,
which are like the mutual fund equivalent,
yeah,
where, because the way the business is funded today decides how the whole business would run, right? I mean, they say structure drives behavior, and structure in many ways is driven by way a sector like this, which is so heavily dependent on capital infusion. Not only the source of the capital, but even the quality of the capital will decide and influence the way projects are run. You know, the classic case probably being the IT parks across the country, which are a huge success story.
yeah,
I mean, there are farmers who are being made shareholders into a holding company, which then creates a huge, real estate infrastructure for large IT companies to take office space on multi-year lease rents, and these lease rents again flow into the holding company, and then as dividends they go back to the farmer, and so there are very positive and structured models that are happening there as well. But then, is this, you feel, going to be more a mainstay, or it will still be sideline stories in real estate, this model of operations? I mean, demand for housing, of course, is perpetually going to be very, very high in a country like India, right? Yet there is a huge demand for rental space. People want to live in a rental houses because of social and job mobility. They move from one place to the other.
Yeah.
So how do you see the whole landscape as somebody who's inside the real estate business?
Not from a business point, I'll tell you, but I know a few people, a very close friend of mine who is very well to do, and he refuses to buy a house.
Oh,
He says, I will never buy a house. So he says that, I invest in the stock market. It has given me 12-14% over how many ever years. Generally, most people who stay invested tend to get that sort of return, minimum, if you invest in safe instruments. And he said, why should I buy a house? Itna, the on a residential house in Pune, now even if I give it on rent, first of all, as an investment, you don't get more than 1-2% anywhere in Pune. Then what your earnings is the appreciation of the house, and then you have so many things to manage. And if he's someone who usually moves jobs every 4-5 years, is what I have seen, and he's like, to liquidate that thing is not an overnight thing. Job, right? It takes weeks, months at times. So I will never buy a house. So that is someone who is not even, lower class, middle class. He's someone who can afford to. He has the money. He's had the money for many years. But he has refused to buy a house. He's lived in, I guess, Dubai, Delhi and Bombay and Pune. He's refused to buy a house anywhere.
Anand, also another big transition I have observed over the last, let's say, 10-15 years, maybe close to 2 decades, is young Indians very rightfully have their own aspirations in terms of the life they want to live. And despite all that is said and written I still believe savings culture in India even today is probably one of the highest in the world.
Yeah, we're much better off.
I mean, there are only few cases where young Indians are living way beyond their means in terms of maxing their credit cards, for example. There's a very few examples, according to me. I mean, there are. I mean, of course, you look at urban cities, you might find pockets uh, of of people living that kind of life. Yet, by and large, those who are wanting to build a career and a life, uh, they are looking at a life of aspiration, and they also know that given the costs of living and the inflation and others involved, a single source of income wouldn't be enough.
Hmm.
And many are also looking at equity investment, howsoever small.
Yeah.
I mean, there are these online brokerages
Yes.
which are nothing but apps on the phone, and you are reasonably active in equity investment. Uh, how do you see that section of participation of young Indians? Not just day traders, but who are probably day traders and are also investing for long.
Yeah, day traders is like a full-time job altogether, I think. But I think uh, the knowledge that they have spread with equity investments, you each and every ad that you see, the every second third ad is these cricketers and everyone saying mutual funds sahi hai, and you see a lot of more knowledge being spread about equity around nowadays. I think earlier it was firstly much harder to subscribe. You have to fill a form, you have to find a broker to go and submit it, and there was a very different process. Now it's a lot easier to do it, and obviously the all the statistics and data and everything is a lot more accessible, that what gives you what, and what is the historical returns, everything is very easily available. So I think the youngsters definitely are now investing in it, and it's good that they're investing in it. I think equity is the way forward for savings. um, yeah.
What's your preferred investment style?
I'm a very passive investor. uh, my father is the exact opposite. He is a very active and aggressive and much more risk taking than I am. I've always been risk averse to most things, not only investing. So yeah, but it's if you use your own brain, I think you will do well. If you just leave it blindly to others, it is not a good idea. So you, even though you don't understand it, try and apply your mind to it. It is not rocket science at all.
You are absolutely right. I mean, I have been a passive investor much of my life too. I mean, not that I have a philosophy as such, and not that I am a very active person in that. Probably at the best 10% of my time would go into looking at the markets. But yes, I mean, one is generally in the know thanks to sources of information which is online today. There are many very good online tools available for one to learn the ropes. Yet, probably I got lazy for some time, and I said in the early days of mutual fund that here are these experts who spend their time in the market throughout the day, and they understand what it means to invest in, let's say, a certain kind of an equity fund or a debt fund or a hybrid fund, and all kinds of complex products that are out there, which is very difficult for an ordinary investor like me, whose profession is something very different, nothing to do with investing. The goal of investing is only to have surplus additional income to sustain a certain lifestyle. So I kind of dependent on those experts, looked at some of the most reputed names in the fund house business, and parked a certain sum of money into some of those funds. Of course, I would occasionally look at them, how the fund is performing, etc., etc. So it was all rosy and nice the first 2-3 years or so. So I kind of stayed invested. Little did I know that in the background there was a scam that was brewing in the fund house, and a lot of checks and balances that were already put in place by the fund house, thanks to some very stringent norms that the Security and Exchanges Board of India (SEBI) has implemented. Despite external and internal regulation, there was fraudulent behavior on the part of some of the fund managers who, for their own personal greed, put their money, the fund, which had money thousands of people like me, or maybe hundreds of thousands, and it got locked, and the fund was frozen, and it remained frozen for almost 12-15 months, and it was not a small amount for me, and I said, why did I do this mistake? And it is only then, people were saying that, you could have taken smaller bets and done things on your own. So there is always this go on your own vis-a-vis trust the experts.
Right.
And it's not easy to find the right answer.
Yeah, it never is. Like, hindsight is always the best teacher, no? So, but like, I don't think what you did was wrong. Like, where I am at in life, even I would not, earlier I wouldn't go into mutual funds and things like that. Now, when I say passive investor, I'm not saying I only deal in direct stocks. I do a lot of mutual fund investments as well. And I think one word that you hear a lot when you talk to all these advisors and brokers and agents, they use this word diversification. So that is actually a very good thing. Like, when you say you put into money into this AMC and it got frozen for 12-15 months, there of course there's a possibility where, say, there's a very big scam, your money becomes zero also. But if you're diversified, I am willing to bet that if you diversify properly and you stay invested for a long time, your overall returns will always beat these bank FDs and returns from debt instruments. So you cannot sit and monitor each and every investment of yours. You have to look at the average. So that's what diversification does.
But then again, Anand, when you look at, trusting a mutual fund house or a reputed broker, for example, to handle your investments, you are putting all your bets on one word called trust. And I think we live in a world which today is called the post-truth world, where nobody knows what is real. The algorithms that Google and Facebook and God knows who all are behind all this are making me believe that the world is this, without me knowing what the real world is. And, I have had my fair share of, what shall I say, being let down very badly by rogue behavior that I couldn't anticipate, despite my years of experience or knowledge and, the gray hair that I have. And I think we are living in a world where you're second guessing what the other person is trying to say. That's the experience I've been having, sadly, lately. I mean, I can lament about this for hours on, but in a world where what is real is so difficult to comprehend, I think it is extremely difficult for me to, engage with anyone with a sense of blind trust. Those days for me are gone.
Correct.
It's like there used to be a time when the saying went that you are innocent unless proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And today, at least, I am in a zone where I am saying to myself, sorry, but I can't trust you unless proven otherwise.
Correct.
I wonder, if this is also a part of some of your struggles.
Yeah, definitely. I think daily you meet from your employees to uh, anyone that you come across in a day. Like you, it's very difficult to take things at face value. I think um, when you're a child, you either say I like you, I don't like you,
Correct,
right?
correct.
I want to be friends with you, I don't want to be friends with you. These are my friends, you are not my friend. You tell the person what you're thinking. And I've seen, like, I am generally fond of kids. Uh, my sister had kids before me, so I've seen my nieces grow up. My cousin had a son of, now he's 24, but I've seen all these kids grow up. So, I see the uh, kind of diplomacy kind of that starts creeping in as you grow older. Earlier, it's if someone some kids is 8 9 years old. That day I came, I had cut my hair and come. They said, "Oh, you look like a driver." So, firstly, that's not a bad thing, but in their mind, they don't even think that's a bad thing. But that's what they associate you with. Now, if someone else comes and tells you that, you're going to get very offended, right? But that's what they feel. That they're not trying to insult you. But even if an adult tells you that, they may not be trying to insult you. It's just the first thing that pops into someone's head. Now, are we able to say this to each other as adults? As we go older and older, we start getting so much restraint in what we have to say. What will the other person think? Will they feel bad, first of all? Secondly, if I say this, will I finally get what I want out of this conversation? Or in future, if I need something from them, will I get that? So you have to be so diplomatic in your relationships. Now, that is on a day-to-day basis. There's so much that diplomacy turns into politics when you start talking about being on a board of directors in a company. There's so much politics over there. It's I feel, if it's just a board of directors should have trust with each other, right? I don't think that trust is there in most board of directors that I come across nowadays. Or even I've been on 2 3 society committees.
Housing society.
Yeah, housing, so like where I lived earlier and the society I live in now. I've been on the committee. I would not say I'm a very active member. I go and participate in the meetings. It's I would have to give credit in both these instances to the chairman, secretary, treasurer. They do the bulk of the work, but you are expected to go and vote and give your participation and opinion and help in, if you are willing to help. Everyone can always use the help, but in all these interactions there's so much diplomacy that you have to maintain. If you say what you think or mean, like if you like what your true opinion on things is, they may not even ask you the next time. So you have to really really watch what you say, and I feel it shouldn't be that way. I mean, if we all just said what we felt and without the other person feeling bad about it or getting offended by it, I think things would move in a lot more productive way.
You know, I was reading a book written by a very reputed journalist who spent almost 40 years of his life in Delhi as a journalist for one of the reputed newspapers of the country. And he would extensively cover India's foreign service. So his specialty was covering news of the foreign service. And he wrote a beautiful book called The South Block and covered extensively the various diplomatic mission that India as a country has in most nations that it finds itself in, I think, 100 plus countries. And there's a beautiful quote on diplomacy. That's how the book begins. Suddenly I'm reminded after, since you used the word diplomacy a couple of times, I'm reminded of that quote. And if I get it right, it said that diplomacy is all about uncovering the unknown and covering up the known.
Yeah, so true. I mean, you I was like like my wife, she can be extremely good at dealing with people. Like I tend to be very straightforward, and I want to just say what I feel, and I will take people's word for at face value. They'll say ये नहीं हो सकता है. I say ठीक है, नहीं हो सकता है. But then she'll be like, क्यों नहीं हो सकता है? So, and then if they'll come up with some bullshit basically for this. Then we would have to insist, no, you do it. Even if this goes wrong, I'll take responsibility. You do it, and when they do it finally you're happy with the end result. So you have to really like push things because people want to just get done with it.
And I think people are somehow, I don't know, I mean, again, this may sound like a motherhood statement, but there is a certain self-image that people have created for themselves. And an image that they want to show to their world.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the word persona, in actually, what I was also reading somewhere, that the word persona in Latin means mask. And somehow there are people in the society whom we meet day in and day out, people in the family, close family, extended family, and in our neighborhood, or at our workplace, or in our social circles, where we just can't guess who's wearing what mask at what point in time, and people have many masks.
Yeah.
Like that song which went, I don't know, one of my favorite songs from an old Hindi movie, एक चेहरे पे कई चेहरे लगा लेते हैं लोग, जब भी जी चाहे नई दुनिया बसा लेते हैं लोग.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, I don't know, they say that don't reveal your cards.
Yeah.
So in situations like this, do you in a world like this, Anand, I always wonder, is it possible to have genuine, heartfelt conversations where the goal is the conversation, not to achieve anything else?
So of course it is, definitely. I think it's the problem is you cannot have those conversations maybe with most people who you need something out of. If you have friendships and obviously family is a whole different equation, but friendships where generally there's no other vested interest that are lying, then you can obviously have genuine conversations. You can make new friends who you can say that I don't like your haircut or whatever it is.
Or you look like a driver.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to emphasize on that aspect.
Sure.
But the thing is that when you need something from someone, you don't have conversations because you're always worried about what you might slip out and what they may take out of it and how it may be used against you or whatever it may be. So it's very, very important to have these heartfelt conversations, and we all are 100% capable, and the opportunities are there to make those friendships. And it doesn't have to be old friends also. Like I said we were living here now in a new society, so there I'm constantly getting to know new people, and it's a wonderful experience. You hang out with them, it improves your mood, you enjoy the conversation, you enjoy your rest of the day because you all you leave feeling elevated and good about yourself, and maybe even having learned something new.
And you play sport, right? You said
Yeah,
not only as a kid, you play even
yeah,
now.
yes.
So I'm wondering if sport is also giving an opportunity to come and meet new people and find different conversations on different subjects other than the game itself.
Yeah, yeah. So when firstly sports, like earlier in school, you always had friends to play with. Here you have to firstly find friends who are willing to play that sport. Second, they should have the time. Nobody has the time. Third, both your times have to match. So you're always going to end up finding new people. Now there's WhatsApp and like in our society, every society has a WhatsApp group. So we had started a group saying sports group, or even all the men's group, and say who wants to play badminton, who wants to play tennis, and then you get to know people. And that just to start a day with a sport is like the best thing. You have, I think it releases endorphins and things like that, which just changes the rest of the day. Because I have had weeks and months where I was not doing any physical exercise just out of sheer laziness to take that initiative. And once I've that has started over the last few years, I'm just feeling a lot more happy in life also. And you, like I said, when you have these conversations with people without wanting anything out of them, what do you want out of them? You don't want any. You're playing a sport together. Now you're going to have talk about things that don't really affect the rest of your day as such. So you will get to learn a lot of new things with new people every time. It might be a different person also that you play with. Now I've been trying to go to the gym, so there you meet so many different people.
So, any such random conversation in recent days which kind of left you a bit elevated?
I don't think it's the content of the matter, it's just the feeling of having that social interaction to laugh about stupid things. It it's I think it's important to not worry about the rest of the day and just be there in that moment. So I can't really think of an instance right now, but it's just those silly moments, I would say.
Something beautiful you just said right now, that it's not about the content of the conversation that matters or leaves one elevated, but the way the conversation happens itself.
Yes.
The feel that it leaves the two of you or whoever is a part of that conversation, right?
Yes.
And laugh out things.
Yeah.
So LOL is an acronym in the social media today, but I think it means a lot, right? I mean, today I wonder whether we laugh enough.
I think I definitely do. Everyone who knows me, I laugh at the silliest things. But that doesn't mean I'm happy on a daily basis. So there's two things with you can watch a show, you can laugh for that half an hour, and then say maybe you still have the rest of the day to attend. You might again be stressed out. So I don't think laughing enough is the solution. There needs to be a lot of, I would say, fulfillment and sense of self-worth also that you should have to truly like be laughing and be happy.
Can you say more?
So I have often struggled with feeling a sense of self-worth, right? So am I doing enough in my work, in my as a son, as a husband, as a father? Am I doing enough? So there's always that feeling that you're left with. But I think if you firstly start your day in these positive activities, you're already feeling elevated. Then those things that you do, you may actually appreciate that maybe what you're doing, you're achieving something out of those each and every role that you're fulfilling every hour or every day. Why I always struggle with that question is that am I successful? Right? Am I successful? The answer that I always tell myself is no. But then recently I've been asking myself that how do you define success? Right? Do you just define it with your bank balance? Do you just define it with your qualifications? Is that all that? Because that's what the first thing that occurs to anyone, right? When you tell someone this person is successful, what do you think of? You think of they're successful in their career and field only, right? There's no other thing that you associate success with. And for me, I think uh, I was associating a lot of self-worth to that definition of success. And of late, I think that there are other things that are important in life, where your relationships, your health, and wealth obviously helps to achieve these things, but it's also important to do the rest of the things to the best of your abilities and get a sense of self-worth from it. Like, don't take yourself for granted. I think that is where you kind of get a lot of self-worth as well.
So beautifully said, Anand, where what is my self worth and where does it come from? And how restrictive is the view, or how larger or all encompassing the view is. And if I look at various pockets of my life, this is what I'm hearing from you, that if I'm successful in being as a son or as a father or as a husband or as a brother or as a colleague at work or as a friend to my friends, whatever notion of the successful. So looking at all those small pockets of life and then adding all that up and say sigma of all that is probably what success it means to me.
Yeah.
And that's where I derive my self-worth. So it's essentially how I look at things is what the world will appear to me, right? I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm hearing from you right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This connects me to a book that I used to read as a child many, many years back. It's been that old. And of course, I used to read those stories to my son too when he was young. It was a comic book called Tinkle.
Yeah.
And it had stories like Shikhari Shambhu or Supandi, various characters. And there's this Supandi story that I'm suddenly reminded of based on what you just said as to how do you define self-worth and success for yourself is based on what lens you wish to see it from. So Supandi, this character in Tinkle, which is a magazine, I think, 50, 60 years old. I'm sure you would have read it.
Yeah, Supandi was the best. I mean, I don't know what lesson you've learned from it because he was just the funniest. But
so Supandi is that character where 9/10 of his body is his head,
yeah,
and 1/10 of his body is the rest of the body.
Yeah,
that's how I remember the caricature.
Yeah, and that long face.
And the long face and the long nose and So there was this story which I can never ever forget till I'm alive, where the story goes that the only possession that Supandi has in life is a small goat. He has nothing else in life. And he's happy to live with that goat under a tree because he doesn't have a house. And he'll roam around with that goat wherever he goes. He'll feed himself, he'll feed the goat, and they'll just live together. One day, Supandi starts noticing that the goat is becoming weaker. It is losing weight. And being a constant companion, he's able to notice that failing health of his buddy. And he starts seeing what is happening. He sees that the goat has stopped eating grass. And the reason it has stopped eating the grass is because all the grass has turned yellow. It had not rained that season. It failed the earlier year too. So 2 years in a row it had not rained, and of course all the grass had turned yellow. And the goats was refusing to eat the grass. Now, Supandi being Supandi, he has to find a solution, an answer, otherwise he knows that he's going to lose his friend. So he finds that there is a mela or a festival that has come to his village. And this festival melas, in Indian villages, you have all kinds of chota things that you can buy, right? Toy or something. And he finds something for 10 rupees. And he knows this is the answer. And he goes and gets that little thing for 10 rupees, which is nothing but a pair of glasses which had green color shades. And he puts the glasses on the goat, and the goat starts seeing everything green. And from that day onwards, it never stops eating grass. What a funny story it was for a kid, but the meaning of that story has evolved and emerged for me over the years. And today, as I hear from you this whole notion of self-worth and joy that I am seeking, and all of us are seeking, pursuit of happiness is something which is a unsaid goal for every person anywhere in the world. It all depends upon what glasses am I wearing.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could have some glasses where you put them on and everyone that you see seems like the best version of themselves, where you see the good in everyone. I remember when I first met you, you told me about that if there are 5% good people in the world, then we'll have a wonderful world to live in. And I think we do have much more than that. It's just about nudging everyone to show their real selves, because we all have a lot of good in us.
Undoubtedly, Anand. And what a beautiful note we are ending this conversation on, that all of us are blessed with a lot of good. And if we can only trust ourselves and trust the world out there to bring forth our goodness, without being judged, without being measured or, for anything. I think at least for our own world that we are a part of, we can make it green.
Yeah.
As Supandi's goat saw it all the time.
Yes.
So I have enjoyed this conversation, Anand. Thank you very much for coming over in person. This is a lovely, what shall I say, a heartfelt chat, dil se.
Yes.
That's how I am feeling right now. Love to hear from you. How has this been for you?
No, it's great to reflect on where I've come from, where I'm at, and it's obviously an honor being here. I've heard your podcast over the last few months, over a year actually, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable.
So, on that note, thank you very much. Wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Take care, and let's stay connected.
100%.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.